Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. Sunday night, we got people already upset that we were a couple minutes behind. We're 5 minutes behind, but we also landed a 5-star DB yesterday, so you guys can just chill out a little bit and put up with our lateness. We'll let some people build in here, man. Let's get to triple digits. We're 30 seconds into this thing and already at 90, so triple digits or bust. Richie, how's your weekend been?
Good, man. It was a brutal day out at the golf course today. I think the heat index hit like 103. But, who can complain after last night at 7:30, right on the dot, to the point where the live show almost missed the recruitment or the commitment at the time?
Yeah, no, it was pretty fun. I'm the same way, bro. So I'm building that little studio outdoors and are in the garage, and there's no AC yet. There's AC coming, but there's no AC yet. And so, I am nasty drenched with sweat right now. You guys can't see that through the camera, but it's pretty bad. And I just ran in the room and threw on a different shirt. But yeah, it's hotter in that little room because it's all sealed up than it is outside. So anyway, all right, let's jump into it, Richie. Florida State gets a 5-star commitment from KJ Bolden last night. Moves their class up to number 4 in the country. And with the commitment, I know Hakeem's there. I know Charles Lester's there. But it's the biggest commitment that Florida State's had since Cam Akers, Marvin Wilson. I don't know, since 2016 Jimbo, I think. I don't think that AC is coming. AC's on its way. Is Richie frozen, or is he just sitting really, really still? Richie might be frozen. I was going to toss that to him, but I think you're right. But anyway, biggest commitment they've had since, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know how. I think it's the biggest commitment since, I'll say, did Cam commit after Marvin Wilson? Am I remembering that correct? I think it's the biggest commitment since then. And that's no slight to Hakeem. That's no slight to Charles Lester, who already committed. But I think with Hakeem, as massive as that was, it still wasn't against Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. Charles Lester, as massive as that was, I said this last night, it felt like you kind of always had that one. It felt like, you were just trying to hold on there, right? And trying to not get bombarded. So, I don't know. To me, again, I think it's Cam Akers. Before that, Dalvin maybe? I don't know, man. That was a massive one. So, all right, Richie, I'll shut up and let you think or let you talk. KJ Bolden commits to the Noles. I feel like it's cool to be a Nole again.
Yeah, and it feels kind of like, when LaMarcus Joyner committed to Jimbo back in the day. He was the first guy, him and Jeff Luke, that made it cool to be Florida State Seminoles again. And when you get guys like that hopping on, it gets other guys that may be on the fence thinking, whoa, Charles Lester, like you said, we kind of always felt good about that one. KJ Bolden, to get a guy right out of Kirby's backyard who Kirby was handling that recruitment personally, is a massive deal. You just don't steal 5-stars from Georgia who live in the state of Georgia. And, just 8 weeks ago, people were wondering, is Florida State even really in the picture? And then to get his commitment last night, and, he wasted no time. And how about this new trend that I love of these blue chip players showing up at these commitment ceremonies? You had Luke showing up at Charles Lester's commitment ceremony. Cam Davis was there last night, and apparently it was a pretty long drive for Cam Davis. So just awesome to see. But like you said, going head-to-head with Georgia, Auburn, who has a phenomenal NIL game right now, Ohio State. And these aren't just, I have an offer from Ohio State. Sometimes you see offers, and they probably could not call that school and commit today if they wanted to. No, KJ Bolden could have committed anywhere in the country last night. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. He chose Florida State, making it cool to be a Florida State Seminole again out of high school. Just a huge pickup for this staff, and a nice feather in the cap for Coach Norvell, Coach SURTAIN. Amazing job by the staff.
Yeah, I want to talk about Pat SURTAIN a little bit. Shane, let's give you some love. The last thing the solid seconds of the ACC want, Miami, Louisville, Virginia Tech, is for FSU to reclaim its spot at the top and Clemson to do nothing but support. Let's play a little sound there.
Fire up the war chant and plant the spear. Noles win. Noles win.
Man, I'll tell you, I kind of agree with that. The second, like the low down teams in the ACC, yeah, it's been bad enough. Saying that my mic's a little hot, I'll back up some. Saying that it's been bad enough with Clemson running things, but I agree. I think that Florida State getting back and starting to do this in kind of an elite way is bad news for everyone else. I mean, Richie, the best thing to me has been the Georgia fans lashing out. Georgia's won 2 national titles in a row, and they're upset at the way that Florida State is going about their business. And obviously, this is not the first person that Florida State has flipped from Georgia. It's probably not the last person they're going to flip from Georgia either. We'll talk about who else the Noles might be getting here in just a moment. Richie says laptop's acting up. You might try it from your phone. It might work a little bit better, but whatever you want to do is fine.
Yeah, am I here now?
Yeah, it's all right.
Let's go. Yeah, but like you were saying, just continue on. But huge pickup for Florida State.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about who could be next. We've gotten this question an absolute ton, and I think this is a pretty valid one. So we'll try and go through some names that I think Florida State is trending really, really well for. Again, if you have other KJ comments, throw them in. But I think Florida State is trending really, really well for a couple of prospects. I think they're doing a really good job already having 2 top 20 guys committed at defensive back, but I don't think they're done back there just yet. I think Jamari Howard's a really interesting name that Florida State is trending in a very positive direction for. I think it was really impressive that they got him on campus that last official visit weekend of July. He spurned UF to go there. I know UF fans were super upset about that, but we already have the best 2 DBs in the country committed. And for them to go out and pull a top 70 kid, he's ranked number 70 on 247 right now, a South Florida kid from down there in Miami's backyard, somebody that Florida really, really wanted. We heard about this Raymond hire and how he just gets whoever he wants. If Pat Surtain's able to come in and grab Jamari Howard, massive, massive for the Noles. I think that if today was signing day, I think he would be a Seminole. I also think that he's going to take it all the way until signing day. So things do happen. Things do change between now and then. But Richie, you got to win your in-state battles against Florida, against Miami, and, be massive to stuff them both in a locker for a top 100 defensive back that adds to the best defensive back class in the country so far.
Yeah, if you're one of the big 3 in Florida and you're winning the state recruiting, that's massive because that gives you such a leg up. You already have Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State all coming into your state trying to get your top talent. If you can't beat out Miami and Florida for these kids, it puts you really far behind. And Florida State right now is in a really good position, and I think it's a big deal. I know we're going to talk about him a little bit more, but again, Pat Surtain, that connection down to American heritage down in South Florida, that's going to play a huge role. And Florida State has positioned themselves really nicely. At the start of June, I know a lot of Florida State fans were a little upset, not sure what's going on. 12 commitments later since then, and sitting at number 4 nationally. And I think there's a little bit of belief that we're starting to see in the staff.
Yeah. Another recruit that I really think Florida State, I'm losing a little bit of my voice. I think, we went live for the Board of Trustees meeting. Was that Wednesday or Thursday? And then we went live on Friday. Then we went live last night. Now we're here again. So I'm definitely losing my voice. So shout out to you guys for causing that. My wife will be thrilled with it. But Booker Pickett is probably the next one that I would look at and say that Florida State is trending in a positive direction for. He goes to school. I literally passed his high school coming back from Home Depot with paint today. He goes to Wharton High School about 5 minutes from me. Released his top 5, and Florida State is in there. Florida State's defensive line recruiting probably hasn't been up to the snuff that we think it should be, but I do think that the Seminoles need to close there, need to do a better job with that position group, and I think Booker Pickett is somebody that the Noles can, and we'll see how things go, but may potentially be able to close on down the stretch. Again, Tampa kid, local kid, so he's close to both Florida, Miami, and Tallahassee within 4 hours of each. But I think that he's somebody that I would look at as potentially looking to commit as well. Harlan, we just got one from Daniel. Go Noles. Daniel, comment real quick so I know who you are on here, but we could play a $10 for Daniel.
Touchdown, Florida State! Touchdown, FSU!
We'll keep it going. The Dr. RJP. FSU is one of 3 schools with 3.
You ain't going to Florida State. What you doing?
All right, we'll talk about Jeremiah Smith in just a minute. Great question there, and thank you for the support. Let's go right into it. So let me get to Jeremiah Smith. I'll save him for last. He's a good one for sure. Another one, 2025 kid, Jaden Perlotti. There's been some debate about how to say his last name, but I saw a video where he said it like that, so I'm going to trust how the kid said it. 2025 linebacker out of Buford High School. I think the Noles are in a really good spot to land his commitment here within the next couple of days, maybe even. A couple crystal balls have gone in. We put a prediction in on our Discord for him, and I think you've got a potential flip candidate. I think he's like 91 or 92% or something to flip from UGA on threes metric. Richie, I'm starting to worry for the Battle's End and all those people that live in Georgia. I'm starting to worry for their safety just a little bit going after Kirby as much as they are. Listen, if you're super chatting this video and you're liking and you're commenting and you're enjoying the commitments that we're getting on the trail right now, I hope that you're signed up for the Battle's End. I hope that you're supporting those folks. I hope that you are giving back because that is what's going to let our team compete at the highest level. If you're a Battle's End member, let me know in the comments right now what your thoughts are. But, Richie, I don't know if you heard that or not. I'm starting to worry for Ingram and some of those folks' safety living in Georgia with how they keep picking on Kirby.
Yeah, I think he and some others might have to go to witness protection program here shortly because they, living right in the Atlanta metro area, that there is a heavy Georgia influence there, and they cannot be happy with him and what he's doing. I loved your tweet yesterday with the mission takeaway with the English.
Oh, Lord.
He's done a phenomenal job with that, and I think we all, from that first tweet, just the bravado they showed. We don't need your money right now. Well, guys, they've shown what they can do. They said, let us prove what we're capable of. They've shown it. Jordan Travis is back. Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson, Jared Verse. And now you're seeing it at the high school recruiting level. If you are not in members of the Battle End, you need to join at any dollar amount as soon as you can. They are not a sponsor of the show, but we are huge advocates of getting money so we can build the best roster possible and have seasons like last year and stack on top of that and keep building.
Yeah. Artavis Jones, another kid. There's a good one, Andre.
Put a smile on your face. Okay? Because Florida State, if we going to do it then, we do it big then. Let's go, baby.
Man, I still love Jameis so much. It's like my wife and kids and then Jameis. So anyway, yeah, I think Artavis Jones is another one that you're looking at. A kid that said he's going to continue to enjoy the process, continue to he had a weird quote to Zach over at Noles 247. We said he was locked in with both Florida State and Miami, a current Miami commit. He is close to Tallahassee. I think that's really, really big. I think that will help. I think the Noles need to get him on campus a couple times this year. They'll certainly get him for an official visit, I would think, later on, unless he shuts down his recruitment. But I think that's one that the Noles can continue to work on. JoJo Trader, another name down there at Miami, committed to them right now. I've heard some interesting things on that I'm not going to say here publicly on the air, but I am going to share some insight with our Discord folks tomorrow. So make sure that you check that out. If you're not a member, you can join at the link in the description. But I think that JoJo Trader commitment is an interesting one. Daniel, thank you for your support, my man. Thank you for the support. You're the man. I think the JoJo Trader one is a really, really interesting one. Harlan, I'll get to that last one here in just a second from James. But JoJo's a big one. And then I'm not going to spend any time on this one, but Mr. Zandamela out there, committed to USC. I'm hearing some things there. We'll drop that soon as well. And then Jeremiah Smith. I think the Noles are, based on what I've been told, the Noles are solidly running second or third there. And it might be closer to second than it is third. I've talked about this. I think that's a battle for second place. I think that if he, ends up going anywhere else, it'll probably be because Hartline leaves. But the Noles are, you don't give up on a recruitment because a kid is locked in with the school. I think if he shuts down his commitment, if he tells you stop contacting me, I think that's when you do. But if he's open to receiving communication and he's open to hearing, I know we get some comments asking about him. If the kid's open to chatting and the kid's open to still being recruited, I think you put your best foot forward. If you finish second, you finish second. But if his position coach just leaves, or if he ends up in the portal down the road, I think you'd be pretty thankful that you did keep pursuing. All right, let's get to these super chats, and then we'll give some love out. Richie, we'll talk about something else, and we'll move on. Where do you think we end up rank-wise in this recruiting cycle? I think if they can flip a 5-star wide receiver, whether it be JoJo or Smith, I think they end up top 5. If not, I still think they end up with a really good class, like 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range would be my guess. Richie, you got a prediction on that one?
Yeah, in early June, we were starting to wonder, is there a path to the top 10? I think you've almost solidified a top 10 class, and now you're just trying to climb. But, as Florida State continues to add talent, so will these other top schools. So it'll be a battle, but anywhere from the, 4 to 9 range probably is where you most likely end up.
I like it. How many 24 commits are they looking to pick up? And how does this impact the transfer portal class for 24-25? So I think the limit is 25, which you can take, but I think there are some interesting kind of rules around that still where you can take a little bit more now. I was told that Florida's going to take 26 or 28 or something. So I don't have an exact number on how many we're going to take. I do know this. Numbers always work themselves out. In fact, Florida State had scholarships left over here in the fall, and that's why they were able to get that linebacker Cryer and do some other stuff. So I'm not super stressed about numbers. I don't think it impacts the portal much at all either. I think Florida State took 9, 10 in the portal this year. Certainly they'll have the room to do that next year too. You got a lot of guys that are heading to the NFL after this, from your quarterback to your wide receiver to running back to probably tied in to a couple of offensive linemen, to some defensive linemen, to cornerback, to safety, to a couple of linebackers. So you'll have plenty of room to still be really, really active in the portal. Nathaniel, thank you for your support. Let's give some love to Garnet and Gold, garnetandgold.com. Listen, hopefully you guys are supporting there. Hopefully you guys are shopping there. I posted a link to a hoodie that they've got going. It's almost like that Norvell hoodie from last year. Noslaw, NOSLAW, for 15% off. Go get them taken care of. Go shop there, and we will certainly continue to hype and pump the stuff that they've got coming out. I saw they've got the shoes in. I know you guys like those shoes, the jerseys, the coaches' polos, all those things. Make sure that you're supporting at garnetandgold.com. Somebody asked me off air what Brad's donation is. So Brad's our all-time leader or whatever. So I think Brad's up at $300 total all time. Marlon, I don't know if you can do a quick scan of that, but yeah, Brad's up really high. Dylan is our new leader for today. Do you think
fire up the war chant and plant the spear? Noles win!
Do you think that's pretty good? Do you think the Travis Hunter posted Heisman season loading? He's going to dress up as Jordan Travis 13 for Halloween. Listen, I think Jordan has I love that joke. Thank you, Dylan, for the support and the joke. I think that Jordan has a great chance to win the Heisman, Richie. It usually goes to the best player on the best team. And if Florida State can, find a way to win 11 or so games, then he's going to have a great chance. But, the irony. How many times does that Travis Hunter post get revisited if Jordan Travis actually wins the thing? It would be pretty ridiculous. So any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it's, voters get Heisman fatigue. So Caleb Williams is probably not going to win it unless USC is 12-0. If Florida State is, 12-1, 13-0 heading into the Heisman ceremony, Jordan Travis is most likely in New York City. And I think he has a very good chance to win it at that point. Because you start thinking of the other favorites, and you think of a guy like Drake May, who was picked first team All ACC. Well, North Carolina is not going to be in the talk at the end of the season, so he's not going to really have a chance. So Jordan Travis, if Florida State has a season that these players think they will or think they can, then yeah, he has a great shot at winning the Heisman.
I like it. And yeah, Dylan, please remind us of that if it's getting towards November. And that seems to be the conversation. Dylan, thank you for the support. Everybody in here, thank you guys for the support. All right, we've talked about recruiting a ton. Richie, I want to talk a little bit about Pat Surtain. He's getting a lot of credit here, which I do think is deserved. I think that, what Florida State did, we had a great question in the Discord today, and it was, what percentage of credit does Pat Surtain get? Because a lot of these recruitments, certainly Lester, certainly KJ, preceded his time in Tallahassee. Like Florida State was already recruiting these guys before he got there. And so how much credit does he get versus how much credit, because Florida State was already really warm with some of these guys before then. And I'm interested to hear your take, but my thought on that is I think that Mike Norvell knew, I think that from the time that the Hunter thing happened, right? And then Coach Woodson was here another year, and I'm not putting all the Hunter stuff on Coach Woodson, but I do think he owns a large part of it. I think Norvell owns a large part of it too. Our NIL being weak probably owns a large part of it too. But I think that Norvell personally handled a lot of DB recruitments so that when a defensive backs coach was hired, he would be able to kind of, I wouldn't even say hand those off, but he would be able to kind of facilitate that relationship a little bit more than just, oh, you got a new guy, let's roll. And so I think that that's massive. And that's why Coach Norvell has been so close with KJ, with Lester, with others that are kind of in that boat as well. I think that, I don't want to say that. I'll say it at the end of this because I don't want. We're all living high right now, so I don't want to upset people. But I think that has been big. I also think that what Pat Surtain brings from a coaching and development perspective is exactly what every recruit wants to hear. And I think that you have to have a good relationship, and you have to be able to relate to these kids, and you have to be able to again, just have that relationship. I don't know how to expound on it anymore, but I think that what he brings from a development side is the top of what any DB in the country would want to hear. And I think that almost helps more than, the relationship side of things. The relationships are really, really important. And I'm not trying to slight him on that at all, but I just think that what he can sell from that perspective is huge. I also think that what Norvell is able to tell kids is, guys, you got the relationship with me. Trust me, I'm not bringing in some slouch. I'm bringing in a 10-year NFL vet. I'm bringing in a guy whose kid is the best DB in the league. I'm bringing in trust me on this. And I think that helps. I think him facilitating that hire is huge. And as many people doubted the hire, Richie, as many people had a lot to say about, oh, he's not proven, and oh, can he recruit? Oh, can he do that? There aren't very many people saying that much anymore about Pat Surtain.
Yeah, I think when you talk specifically about, Lester and Bolden, it's a classic case. Like, give Norvell the win, but Surtain gets the save, right? He came in, did his job. Mike kind of set him up for success, and he came in and closed. And, oh, by the way, it doesn't hurt that his son is arguably the best cornerback in the entire NFL right now. And, obviously he went to Alabama, but everybody knows, and it's an easy sell if you're Pat Surtain Sr., I developed my son. I turned him into a 5-star that got to Alabama, and then he took care of his business from there. Yeah, he was a phenomenal hire. And, I think a defensive backs, it's a low-risk hire, right? You want an extremely good recruiter and, someone who can develop, but we knew he could develop players. So that box was already checked. It's how well could he recruit? He was an all-pro in the NFL one year. This is a guy that can say, I've done everything you guys want to do. I did it at a smaller school than you, still got drafted, had a successful long career, and look at my son now. He is the best in the league at his position, which I helped teach him and develop him as a kid. It's just, I really loved the hire at first. And if it continues to pay off like this on the recruiting, because I'm not worried about the development of our defensive backs. The recruiting is what I want to see. And when you're at a school like Florida State, you're always going to recruit really well at the defensive back position, no matter who's the one doing the recruiting. But I'm just really excited to see what continues to happen.
Yeah. Certainly not going to complain getting 2 5-stars in 8 days. But I mean, I think it just shows, and this is no slight at Pat Surtain at all. So but when I say this, I think people are going to take it that way. So I promise you that's not what I'm doing. But if you come in here and work your tail off, which I believe he's doing, and you come here and you can show that you can develop defensive backs, Florida State's always going to recruit really well at defensive back. And I'm not saying that that's easy, or I'm not saying that Surtain's job is not difficult. I'm just telling you, if you work your butt off and you can halfway relate to a kid, you're going to recruit defensive backs because it's Florida State. I mean, we had the greatest ever that played here. And I know some of you fans get mad at him now, but we had the greatest ever that played here. We got the greatest 2 defensive backs in the league right now that played here, right? Play the Jalen clip, Harlan. I think that Florida State, I don't want to say it recruits itself, but if you just bust your ass, and I think that Pat Surtain is doing that, you're going to get recruits. You're going to land guys. And I think that's what's happening. That's what you're seeing go on. And Nathaniel just wants to be back up in the lead. So Nathaniel,
and you ain't going to Florida State. What you doing?
Nathaniel gets back up into the lead tonight. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. But yeah, I think that's a lot of what it is. And Richie, we already mentioned them, but let me say this. And I think, again, Pat Surtain, that hire, he shut a lot of people up. And Mike Norvell proved how good of a hire that was. And how elite Mike Norvell was hiring. I think we said this when he was hired back in February, but last year we weren't able to make the hires I think that we wanted to because we weren't hiring from a position of strength. This year it is different, and I do believe we're hiring from that position of strength. I think that Florida State, Mike Norvell, could have hired anybody they wanted to at that defensive back position. There were former players vying for that job. There were NFL guys vying for that job. There were a lot of people. People were tying a certain Miami assistant to that job. There were a lot of people, but Mike Norvell went out and got the guy that he wanted, and that happened to be Pat Surtain. And Pat Surtain, what the Noles have done on the trail, really for a lot of this. I mean, I love the Red Morgan take. I think we've got a lot of good defensive backs, and I think we're going to continue there. We already talked about Jamari Howard, obviously. You know, the 2 guys, the 2 5-stars that just committed. It's obvious that Norvell's, that hire was a slam dunk. And I'm with you, Richie. I'm more and more excited to see what comes in the future. Because again, I don't think we're done at DB. We talked about Jamari Howard. I think that if today was signing day, I think he commits to the Noles. I think he signs with the Noles. A lot of time between now and then, but you certainly can't hate the results. What he's, got hired in January, February, and it's now August. So 6-7 months, and he's gotten 2 5-stars. I don't know if anyone's ever done that before. So I'll fight with the Gator fans on Twitter all day, but I think we might have the best defensive back coach in the Big Three, and he's not even coached it down yet. So, Richie, any other thoughts on Pat Surtain before we go on?
No, just like you said, a phenomenal hire, and I don't think a hire that would have happened if Florida State had gone 7-5 last year. Mike Norvell put a product on the field that was attractive enough to pull him away from the Miami Dolphins, which you don't just leave an NFL coaching job. I know he wasn't, one of the main coaches. He was kind of, the equivalent of a college analyst, but to get him on the field at Florida State, and man, once he figures out what he's doing on the recruiting trail, which it already seems like he has, he's going to just get any guy he wants. Just a phenomenal hire by Mike Norvell.
Nathaniel says, my bad, still drinking from last night's commit. LOL. What do you have to drink, Nathaniel? How awesome would it be if Surtain turned the current secondary around and made them one of the best in the country? Let's get him some noise going there.
Touchdown, Florida State! Touchdown, FSU!
No, the sound makes me feel good. The sound, I like the sound. So, yeah, okay, so I do think I think that this is going to be one of the best secondaries in the country. I think that Florida State now they got to go out and prove it, but I do think that you brought in the best corner in the country in
Cypress,
Fintrell Cypress. We'll talk about fall camp here in just a second, but I'm hearing that Cypress might not even be your day one starter because of how much Green and Jones have jumped up. I think that having Pat Surtain there to be able to coach the young guys and really be able to get the absolute most out of Akeem Dent, who has been around forever and needs to improve. I love Shaheem Brown's athleticism. And then we'll talk about the JUCO kid, Barker, who is, we'll talk about him in just a moment. Let me not jump ahead too much. But yeah, I mean, I think that this secondary, they've got to stay healthy and they've got to play up. But with what the defensive line is going to do, and the pressure they're going to put on people, I mean, your secondary is only as good as your defensive line. And if a quarterback has all day to throw, then you're not going to look very good. But I think the secondary has a great chance with, again, the help of the D-line, Pat Surtain's coaching, to be, top 20. I'd take a top 20 secondary because I know the defensive line is going to be top 5. So you balance all that out. I mean, you're looking at a top 10 defense. So, yeah, I think that's definitely possible. Richie, at the end of the year, how do you rate our secondary?
Let's put it this way. If we're talking right now about Central Cyprus, an all ACC player from a year ago, potentially not starting for you. So I feel good about my secondary based on that alone. But yeah, we'll see what happens by the end of the year. Like you said, the defensive line is going to make their job a lot easier. Braden Fisk is just a monster. And, I don't know if Mike Norvell is ever going to win a race again at the end of practice because that man just flies for a guy that size. I'm just excited overall. I know we're going to get into camp in a little bit. But yeah, if you're talking about having an all ACC player from a year ago, potentially not even starting for you, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, so shout out Pat Surtain. Obviously, absolutely crushed the hire. Norvell did. Let's give some love to Gramco, and then let's move on. TheGramco.com. Hey, they're doing a huge gummy push right now. Richie, I don't know if you know this or not, but they've got not only the Delta 8 gummies that we've always kind of given love to, they've got a CBD gummy as well, and they've got a new Delta 9 gummy. So that's the big boy. That's the real stuff. Delta 9 now available as well. TheGramco.com. Make sure that you're supporting. Appreciate them for all that they do for us. They are Noles. They are huge supporters of FSU. Appreciate them for their support. Use code TJ25 for 25% off at checkout. TheGramco.com, TJ25 for 25% off at checkout. Go get you some gummies today. Okay, Richie, there's been a lot spoken about conference realignment, so let's jump into that right now, and then we're going to give some fall camp updates, and then we're going to get out of here so that we can have a decent night tonight, and I can go do some more painting. So thank you, everybody that's hit the super chat today. Guys, we've got over 500 people in here, and YouTube gives me the stats afterwards, like 200 of you guys won't even be subscribed. I already know that. Hit the subscribe button and help. Like, we just hit 8,400 today. Let's hit 8,500 by the end of this live. All right, everyone just listen, suck it up and hit the subscribe button and let's go. All right, we're going to talk about fall camp here in just a minute, but Richie, this conference realignment stuff is just absurd, and we can take this any direction that you want to because I feel like I've covered it from every direction that exists. So what are your thoughts? Where are you at right now with conference realignment, Pac-12 stuff, Big Ten stuff, FSU grant of rights? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's hard to see the Pac-4 surviving at this point, but I did see a report that they might merge with the Mountain West, which actually makes some sense. They don't have a TV contract currently, so that's not a good place to be in. With Florida State, it's kind of like Drew Weatherford said, it's not if, it's when. Will it happen before the 15th or will they wait till next year? It'll be interesting. Obviously, the JP Morgan news was huge. I've followed a lot of that stuff heavily, just being a Live Golf fan and seeing the purchase of that with the Public Investment Fund, and how that all is tied in. So I think Florida State basically is putting every card on the table saying, listen, there is nothing stopping us. And, we heard the chairman last week tell Warchant that, the grant of rights is not going to stop us. And, the news that broke this week is just absolutely, confirms that they are dead serious. They will do whatever it takes. I do wonder, again, the good news is we only have 10 days left until the 15th. So if Florida State does not announce or not formally submit their intentions to leave the ACC by the 15th, I fully expect them to do it within the next year. Right? I don't think Florida State will be playing in the ACC in the 2025 season.
Yeah, no, I'm I'm kind of right on there. Oh, look at my man.
Put a smile on your face. Okay? Because Florida State, if we gonna do it then, we do it big then. Let's go, baby.
I still love Jameis so much. Thank you, Florida State, man, I think I know who that is. Thank you, my guy. Appreciate you for the support. I don't see them leaving after. Like, I think it'll be by August 15th of 2024. We'll kind of keep our eye out for the next few days to see what happens. What I was told, and I don't know how much I believe this or not, but this seems to track. What I've been told is that you can't just call like an emergency board of trustees meeting. You have to give like there has to be like a week's notice. So based on like sunshine laws and just different things within the state of Florida, I think that if you don't see a board of trustees meeting called in like the next 2 days, so that would put you at the 8th, and that'd be a week before the 15th, I believe that you're probably looking at the next year, right? You're probably looking at August 15th. Now, I could be wrong on that. I'd love to eat crow. I'd love for them to call a meeting at 11:59 p.m. on the 14th and keep us all up late and, be as dramatic as possible. But we'll see. We'll kind of take it all day by day and continue to try and get you the latest and the updates on it as we can. That Board of Trustees meeting, thousands of you guys watched on this channel, even more watched obviously on FSU's official channel. I spoke with somebody at FSU, and they confirmed that was the highest attended Board of Trustees meeting they've ever had in history. So that was obviously fun to see. But man, I do think this, man. I think that conference realignment, Richie, is literally the most interesting topic in college football right now. We could post a conference realignment video and a 5-star recruit committing video, and the conference realignment video is going to get 4 times the views as the recruit. And I think the reason why is because recruiting happens all the time, and you don't necessarily get 5 stars all the time, but you have the propensity to get 5 stars like all the time. No big deal. Conference realignment is literally going to shake the foundation and change the fabric of our game. And, as much as I love that we got KJ last night, that's not going to change Florida State football, and that's not going to change the way that the next 60 years go. Whereas conference realignment very much could. And so anyway, it is insane right now. The rumors, the stuff flying, everyone is in agreement that Florida State and Clemson are headed somewhere soon. How soon? I don't know, but man, hopefully it's in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I know you did a video on North Carolina and their athletic director. They're gone the second they have a chance. There's no doubt in my mind. I think that's just a charter member trying to look out for the schools that probably will not have a home, at least not in the Big Ten or the SEC, potentially the Big 12, or potentially, this thing goes the way of the Big East back in the day. It's fascinating as a college football fan because, last round of realignment, that back in 2014-ish, to 2011-ish, there was reports that Florida State and Clemson were going to the SEC. I'll do it, albeit they were very brief reports and died very quickly. But it feels real this time, and Florida State is going to make sure, that the Big Ten and SEC do not have any pause about the grant of rights because they are eliminating that as a worry entirely. And I don't think it's a bidding war, so to speak, but I do think it's an issue of, does the SEC really want the Big Ten to get the premier school in the state of Florida? That's a huge question the SEC has to answer. And, Florida State is on the path for AAU status, so they'll fit right in with the Big Ten. I'm very happy with either one. Part of me almost prefers the Big Ten, but definitely the SEC is better for fans, especially if you're one that likes to travel to a lot of away games.
Yeah, I've seen this as well, and I think this is a good take. When you think about the fans of the non-revenue sports who typically travel way more than football. Actually, They do travel way more than football. Football travels, 5-6 times a year. And one of those is always going to be to Miami or Florida. And a lot of times they play another game very, very close. But when you think about your softball girls or women's tennis or whatever, I think that, it is tough for them to have to do the travel that they would have to do up to the Big Ten or to a lot of places. And you think about some of the Pac-12 schools that are now having to travel across country to the East Coast. I think that's pretty rough. I don't think it'll be as bad for Florida State's programs, but something that a lot of people haven't really talked about, something that I do think is worth noting, just how this, and I know it's a business. I know that that's at the end of the day, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. But I do think that's something that's underrated. A lot of people have been talking about here recently, and I think it's something that we should be kind of mindful of. SEC would certainly help with that. But again, I think the Big Ten is close enough regionally. Like, we're already traveling to Syracuse and Boston College and Pittsburgh and everything else. I don't think the Big Ten is too much different than that. But it is kind of something to maybe think about as we're going through it. But we will certainly try and do our very best of keeping you updated. Again, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Help us get to that 8,500, which we are rapidly approaching. Man, we're like 1,600 away, and it's kind of an aggressive goal, but I'd really like to hit that 10K before the season starts. So help us get there. Okay, Richie, let's talk a little fall camp, and then if anybody else has any comments, questions, super chats, whatever, happy to try and answer those as well. But fall camp is upon us. What are we, 2 days in, 3 days in to fall camp at this point? And Florida State's gotten some, I think, pretty good returns out of it. They're going to have a scrimmage upcoming next week. We will certainly keep you updated with everything we hear there. I think we've done a good job of that in the spring. But I think that Florida State has done a great job of kind of building around some of the hype, building around some of the excitement. And the early returns in fall camp, which, again, we're going to do a little segment on, but the first thing to remember is that it is 2 or 3 days and a couple of those without pads. But Richie, I think that I had somebody from Clemson message me the other day and say, haven't seen Florida State look like this since like 2014. Like, just the way that the team looks. Like, did you see the pictures of Jared Verse? Have you seen the Trey Benson where he's like just standing there in the shorts and how yoked he looks? Like, Florida State's strength and conditioning program is probably the biggest takeaway as we start fall camp and as we start to see some of these highlights, pictures, and videos coming out of Florida State right now.
Yeah, built by storms, right? And, to your point, they haven't gone full pads yet. So it's, there's the hard to take away a ton from it, but they definitely look like a Division I college football team. There were 2 or 3 years in the past 5 years or so where they got off the bus and you're like, man, is this a Division I football team? Because they look like they belong in the FCS or something. It was embarrassing, honestly. Now you have guys like, even seeing the newcomers, Keon Coleman, Braden Fisk, what those guys look like. This team is just built different. And to your point, TJ, the guys that have been in the system, shout out Coach Storms, because this strength program is no joke right now. Shout out the nutrition staff. I think, they're going to look like they belong on the field. Maybe not with a Georgia 100%, but basically anybody else in the country. You're not going to see them line up on the field and say, oh, man, this could be rough, which we've seen several times in the past 5 years or so.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, even Georgia, I think the biggest difference between us and Georgia right now is, besides us having a better quarterback, and a better coach. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Kirby fans. All right. The biggest difference is the depth, right? I think Florida State, 1 through 11 on both sides of the ball, I like us just as much as Georgia, right? I think they're very comparable. Georgia's probably a little bit better, but I think we could hold our own. I think the depth is where you get into it. So if you stay healthy and you get into, week 16 of the season, I think you're in, pretty good shape. If you go into that game not healthy, or you go into a playoff game or a matchup, even against Clemson, in the ACC championship, and you're not healthy, I think that's where Florida State would struggle. And what they're doing right now at the recruiting ranks and everywhere else, that is going to build the depth. That takes time. You're not just going to flip a roster of 85 people and have Georgia-type depth. I mean, nobody in the country has Georgia-type depth, maybe Alabama. But, I think that's the next step, right? I think 1 through 40 are probably pretty similar with Florida State and Georgia. I think that 40 through 85 are where Georgia, has a whole nother roster. Georgia's 40 through 85 could probably win the SEC East this year. Actually, yeah, they definitely could, looking at, who's over there. So, okay, a couple of news and notes that I've gotten from practice. It is early. Fabian Lovett is there. I know there was the video of him in a boot and just kind of the concern around that when Tatum Bethune broke the rock. I'm hearing that Fabo is very limited at practice right now. In fact, not doing anything is maybe the better way to say it. He does walk into practice. People get videos of him walking in. I know that a lot of the beat that's there at practice can't really report this, but Fabo's not taking any reps. He's not really doing anything. I was told, the stretches that you see the guys do where they, push their leg all the way up and they touch their toe out at their face. Like he can't do that right now. The expectation, though, what I'm told is that Fabo will be ready to go by LSU. They are letting him have most of fall camp to rest, rehabilitate, recover, all of those things from his leg injury, and then that he will go in and be able to play against LSU. Now, not having been through all of fall camp, I expect his reps to be limited, even if he does play. But I think that the plan is, and if he had to go today, I think he could. The plan is to give him as much recovery time as is humanly possible until we get to game week. Fall camp is done, and you're just into week one preparing for LSU. Then I think you'll see him out there more and more if there are no setbacks. But that's what I'm hearing on Fabian Levitt right now. We'll see, if people are able to kind of confirm that, if not, but that's kind of the latest news on him. Richie, I really like Florida State's defensive line depth. I think that Farmer and Fisk are going to be really, really strong, even if Fabo couldn't go or whatever. But obviously you'd like to really have Levitt in there because he takes that defensive line up to just an absolute different level. Somebody said I thought they'd seen Fabo in helmet and pads. Yeah, he walks in, he wears the helmet and pads, and then he sits on the sideline and does very little the rest of the practice, is what I'm told. I don't think you'll see him in any highlight videos. I haven't, certainly. If you've seen any or whatever, let me know. But I think he just kind of walks in with the helmet and pad. So, Richie, thoughts on Levitt?
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a luxury. You'd like him to be getting reps just as far as being in game shape against LSU, but the luxury of having all these defensive linemen, still fingers crossed on that waiver. We'll see what happens, But if that goes through, watch out. But yeah, Fabo, he knows what to do, right?
Oh, we lost Richie right when he was going to make a good point. But yeah, I think Richie's right. And that brings up Darrell Jackson's waiver. And obviously getting that approved or getting that back going would be massive for the Seminoles. You were talking about Richie Fabo knowing what he needs to do.
Yeah, again, a seasoned college vet, so him missing practice isn't a big deal. I'm more concerned about the conditioning than I am any reps he's missing because we know what he's capable of doing. So that's the biggest deal for me. And you obviously would love to have him for LSU. Even if you only have him for 20 snaps, that's still a huge bonus.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you think about how you could strategically use those snaps and the depth that you have at defensive line right now. Anyway, prayers up because I really want Fabo back, and so I need him to be back and ready to go for that week one game against LSU. I'm hearing really good things around Ashlyn Barker, the transfer JUCO kid. I know that safety depth is something that has concerned a lot of fans. I think that you feel pretty good about Dent and Brown. But then I think, you really want there to be that third level of, somebody in case one of those guys goes down or just one of those guys needs a break or, in the middle of the game. I don't expect those guys to play every single play. I'm hearing some good things. I don't know that he's the most put together. I think it's going to take him some time to really kind of mold in that role, but he's incredibly physical. He's a massive kid. His size and length and just agility and playmaking abilities are really, really good. He's very naturally gifted. And I don't think, we talked a ton about Pat SURTAIN earlier, I don't think there's a better coach in the country to develop him right now. I think that Florida State's kind of got a luxury with that, but him being back there on that back end and kind of shoring up that secondary in a depth role, not being counted on as much. I think that's really, really big. I think that, you kind of like Shyheim Brown, right? Like Shyheim Brown last year didn't have to take on a full responsibility. He was able to come in and kind of make plays in spots because you trusted what you had in Dent and Robinson. And I think Barker could potentially do some of those things this year. Guy that when he gets in, is he able to make the most of his plays? He's incredibly He's incredibly talented. He's incredibly gifted as far as his athleticism goes. And if he can kind of get in and make some of those right plays, do some of those right things, he has flashed. He's certainly done some nice things early. Again, it is very early, but athleticism kind of always translates. So I'm hearing good things on Barker as well. And Richie, we've talked about how good the secondary is. I'll tell you this, and then I'll kind of get your thoughts all the way on the secondary. But I'm hearing that Cypress still probably isn't your starter as of today. Now, that's a good problem to have, in my opinion. And I think that I would still project him to be the starter once we get to week 1 LSU game. But I think that the development of Green and Jarian Jones has been off the charts from where they were a couple of years ago until where they are now is super impressive. And, again, that's why I think the secondary could be top 10, top 20-ish in the country this year.
Yeah, I think Renardo's the guy that, he has the spot locked down, right? He's probably your best corner as far as pro potential right now. Cypress, I do expect him to start for LSU. To your point, he's not there right now. He's not running with the ones, but that's all credit to Jarian Jones, because he's a guy that people have kind of slept on a little bit, and he's just quietly gone about, done his business, and done a great job with Barker. That's a huge deal because, like you said, we need depth at the safety position. You like Brown, you like Dent, but what do you have behind him, right? Because what happens if one of them rolls an ankle in the first quarter at Clemson? You need someone who can come in and just be reliable. You don't need a game changer back there. So I like where the secondary's at. You'd like to see someone else emerge. But the good thing with Florida State, you have several guys that are, playing corner right now that maybe aren't getting the reps they want that could potentially make that move to safety. You have a lot of athletes in the secondary. So I think Florida State's in a good position. And I trust Coach SURTAIN and Adam Fuller to get it figured out. It's going to be a fun fall camp. I'm excited that the pads come on this week and we can see some real football because to this point, it's nice. It's exciting. Football's back. But I do want to see, Bobby Bowden used to say everyone was a PlayStation All-American in shorts in a shirt. So now we'll separate the men from the boys starting this week and see how that goes.
Richie, did you see P-Dub's son get a walk-on spot? How cool was that? I talked about it a little bit on the live on Friday. We'll talk about this as well. How much do I have to donate for a Richie football minute? I don't know. We'll just give the whole thing to Richie. Let's say $10 a week. A football minute is, I like that. Yeah, I don't know if we're doing any basketball minutes this year. That fell off. We'll see how they start. But P-Dub's son out there getting a spot as a walk-on. Pretty cool. Obviously, P-Dub just being, again, it's between Deion Sanders and Peter Warrick as the greatest two athletes to ever, athletes only. I think Jameis and some of those guys might be a little bit better as football players. But P-Dub, what he did for Florida State and coming back and getting the title and everything else, I thought that was really neat. And then seeing his son out there, seeing him out there at the first couple of practices, almost brought a tear to this old curmudgeon's eyes.
Yeah, it's awesome to see him out there. And it's hilarious when you look at where college football is today, because not only would he have won the Heisman, he would have had the biggest Dillard's endorsement ever back in '99 when all that went down. And he's a guy that has been around the program through Jimbo, through Willie, through Coach Norvell. Like, he just loves Florida State. I've seen him at multiple, Florida State events here in Orlando and up in Tallahassee. That's a guy that just loves being a Seminole. So I bet he is just the proudest father in the world right now, knowing his son is wearing that garnet and gold for Florida State. And hopefully Florida State is just blowing Wake Forest out and his son can get in there and get some reps and see what happens.
Yeah, I love it. So the Noles will be – I have a fall camp schedule here somewhere that I wrote down. The Noles will be in Jacksonville this weekend. Richie, that's kind of fun. I'm thinking about – I know this is kind of crazy. I'm thinking about going up to Jacksonville for fall camp. I think that could be really, really fun. Those will be in Jacksonville. They'll also have a scrimmage coming up here soon. So make sure that you're locked in with the channel. We think we did a pretty good job of trying to get you guys scrimmage news and notes as soon as it happened last year. I'm sorry, not last year, in the spring. We will have eyes and ears out at the scrimmage. So you don't want to miss out on that. We'll kind of see how all of that plays out. But man, Richie, we are what are we today? Like 28 days away. We're 4 weeks to the day. We are doing a massive tailgate out of the same place we did it for the Oklahoma game. If you don't have a tailgate yet, we will probably be showing the game at the tailgate. Come out and hang out with us. The link is in the description. Check that out. Come hang out with us. It's on Eventbrite. Just search Double Fries No Slaw. It'll come up. It's the FSU LSU tailgate. We are going to have way too much fun out there. So come hang out with us on Sunday before we kick LSU's tail. Richie, before you freeze up again, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No, like you said, 4 weeks to the day when we are back in, just outside of downtown Orlando, tailgating for the LSU game. This one feels different. Last year was exciting up in New Orleans, but this one, you can tell that there's a lot to play for this one. And last year you just wanted to win, but nobody thought the winner was going to go on to the college football playoff. That's not the case this year. This is arguably the first college football playoff game of the season, and I cannot wait. We are 4 weeks away. The tailgate should be a blast. It's a really short walk to the stadium. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, should be a ton of fun. Come hang out with us. That Guthrie's will be flowing. A lot of other stuff will be flowing out there as well. So come hang out with us at the tailgate. Listen, shout out to you guys tonight. We have enjoyed back-to-back weeks going live here at 6 o'clock on Sunday nights. If you like this, we'll keep doing it. If you guys would do us the favor of hitting that subscribe button, we certainly would appreciate it. We will drop more news and notes into the Discord this week. If you're not part of that, again, link is in the description. Richie, thanks for hanging out. Everybody in here, thank you for your support. To all our super chats, Nathaniel, thanks for winning today. We'll talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.